And I'll give you the shortcut. The short recipe for influence without authority goes something like this. You need alignment and permission. Those are the two pieces of the puzzle. If you have alignment, meaning you know what they want and you can align what you want with it because they're your boss, not the other way around. If you know what they care about and you can find how what you want aligns with it and you get permission to help them get what they want, you have secured the ability to hold that person accountable, set expectations, give feedback, and do all the things required. Doesn't mean it won't be filled with some friction, but because you got permission and because you're both going the same direction, it's going to be a lot easier.
And that goes, in work, your teammates, goes at home, goes coaching baseball, soccer, whatever. You're dealing with your wife.
Building a legacy starts with the bold decision to take a leap of faith. Behind every empire lies a foundation of grit, willpower, and the courage to take big risks. Welcome to Entrepreneurship Unlocked, where world shakers in the business world gather to share their stories. We're diving deep into the mindset of the modern entrepreneur to show you exactly what it takes to become truly unlocked. Join us in the pursuit of excellence with your host, Seth Rudin. This is Entrepreneurship Unlocked.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Entrepreneurship Unlocked. I am Seth Rudin, your Pacific Northwest business broker covering Washington, Oregon, and California. I have the honor of introducing Mr. Erik Berglund of Luminary.ai. Luminary AI helps leaders practice and prepare themselves for the management discussions, the sales discussions, or any critical conversation that you need to have. So please allow Erik to introduce himself and we'll get started into this great upcoming podcast. Thank you.
Seth, thanks so much for having me. You nailed it. Preparation is key. And whether it's athletes, whether it's business leaders, salespeople, customer success, legal, finance, accounting, restoration technicians, trades, it doesn't matter. You have performances in your business that are controlled by how effective your people are at communicating. And if you're trying to build a robust business that survives you exiting it, you're going to need to make sure you got a handful of those folks in your company because it's going to increase the value of it and the likelihood that someone's attracted to your business in the first place. So I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Glad to have you. And for the buyers and entrepreneurs who are listening, his frameworks are exactly what you need to transform your hero-based business into a scalable asset. And I'm very glad to have you here.
I had on my podcast a couple months ago, I had on, I forget his exact title, but he was high-ranking Army official. And then he went to the UN for 20 years and he was in Gaza leading teams through humanitarian aid over the last several years. This guy is used to leading people in high stakes environments. And what he shared with me is that if your anticipated mission time was 10 hours, we think this mission is going to take 10 hours to execute. You would add another 10 hours of practice and wargaming beforehand. So now the mission is going to take 20 hours. 10 of those are spent on practice. We don't do that in business. We don't give that degree of practice to our business, right? How often are you practicing? Is your sales team wargaming the most important sales calls they have that week? How many minutes per week do they spend role playing that? How many weeks do your leaders spend practicing accountability conversations that they might need to have as they go forth with doubling their staff over the next 2 years, if that's what's on your growth trajectory? Really great organizations would create simulation environments for that. And there's 4 common principles around simulation environments. They're quite simple. These are intuitive. They're not something I made up. They're something I observed that these high stakes, high reward organizations do well. The first thing they do is they create realistic training scenarios. If you've ever done a role play before where your boss can't properly pretend to be the customer, you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't work. The scenario has to be realistic. That's a basic. We're not hitting golf balls in basketball gyms. We're not doing goofy. We're not pretending to fly an airplane while we're playing the trumpet. Like, we're in a realistic scenario. The second thing you need is timely and accurate feedback. This is somewhat obvious, but if you've ever been a leader who does a one-on-one review with your team after a certain amount of time, once a week, once a month, you know how difficult it is to give feedback on a sales call that happened 3 weeks ago or on a deal that got blown up 2 months ago. It needs to be timely and it needs to be accurate, which means you have to have some way of seeing it. You don't know how the negotiation went just based on if a person said yes or no. You don't know if the person stumbled into success or if they masterfully navigated a very difficult set of choppy waters in order to get there. So you got to have accurate feedback based on your visibility of the situation. This is why the Seahawks coaches watched them practice and saying, have a good practice, guys. We'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll see you at the end of the day. Well, they watched so that they could give timely, accurate feedback.
Probably were on the field next to the line.
They probably were, right? Might have been out there in the middle of it trying to get the right angle on it. So you got to have realistic scenario. You got to have timely, accurate feedback. You need to have psychological safety. This is the most overlooked piece of the puzzle. You need to be in a situation where you can fail without consequence. That's what it's really all about. A practice is all about the ability to fail without consequence. Consequence, by the way, is not just winning or losing the sale. It's the impression your peers have of you. It's how highly your boss thinks of you. Anytime you've ever role played with a boss, you're not in practice mode. You're in holy shit, don't get fired by saying the wrong thing and revealing how bad I am at this to my boss mode. You cannot possibly receive good feedback if you're not in a psychologically safe state. So we need to simulate that in a realistic way, which is why
Totally agree.
Sports teams will often kick everybody out during practice time. Hey, it's just the team, right? There's the staff, there are practices where the media can be there watching, and then there's practices where no one else is allowed here because we need to fail and screw up as much as we can without anybody really noticing that it's happening. If you create a realistic scenario and you give people the opportunity to fail safely and you give them timely and accurate feedback and you let them do it multiple times, it's the fourth piece of the recipe, you will have created a simulation environment where people are probably going to get significantly better at the skills that really matter, and they're going to do so in a way that doesn't burn them out or make them feel like they're at risk, and that's how you level up talent. That's the commonality across any given organization that uses practice. And up to 2 years ago, this was really hard to build into your business. It was very difficult to do this for any company because role-playing violates several of those things, right? None of us are professional actors, so our realism's bad. The feedback might not be that great depending on who you're role-playing with, and it's definitely not psychologically safe, even if you can do it multiple times, which you can't. Most of the time you'd role-play one thing one time, not 7. So it's been very difficult to do that. But my second company exists, Luminary, because as of 2 years ago, large language models are sufficiently good at natural language processing that we can create realistic scenarios because the AI avatar can pretend to be the other person incredibly well. We can put that and map it against timely and accurate feedback. So if there's a particular model that Seth follows for selling your business to XYZ buyer, we could train a different AI on that model to say, hey, Seth, how good of a job did you do when you interfaced with AI 1? So that we could score it against, with AI 2, we could score it against what a good job would have been. If you have a sales process or negotiation tactic that you know is the best, we'll teach a second AI that and we'll have it analyze the performance to give you timely, accurate feedback. You'll do this on your own cell phone or in front of your own computer with your door closed so that you're in a psychologically safe environment where you're ready to learn. And we'll let you click the retry button as much as you want because that's exactly how you get the number of reps under your belt required to turn it into muscle memory. And that's the goal of the simulation. It's not to have people simulate it, it's that they don't think when they go execute that play anymore. When the Seahawks walked up to the line, I keep referencing the Seahawks, by the way, because Seth and I are both Pacific Northwest guys and they just won the Super Bowl. Whether you like them or not, it's not the point.
Let's go Hawks.
For us, I thought you might. Right, when they walked up to the line and they had to read the Patriots' shifting defense on 3rd and 3, they needed to not have to think about how the play would evolve if they dropped into cover 2 or if they blitzed. That needed to be instinctual between the quarterback and the receiver. And you can't get that by teaching it to somebody in the conference room. You get it by running the play a bunch of times. The good news is you don't need to run it an infinite number of times. What we find, and I don't know this to be true for football, so I won't speak to them, but what we find is that most professional skills, you need to practice between 12 and 20 times to turn it into muscle memory. That's kind of the required level of hit the retry button in order for somebody to get better at something. And we can visualize this. Think about somebody who's naturally pretty good at validating somebody, who has a decent amount of comfort using a validation statement or question. that might only take them 2, 3, 5 practice times before they're like, yeah, I don't ever need to practice that again. I got it. But if you've never done that before and you're kind of socially uncomfortable and you're not even sure you read the person correctly, maybe you're not a very good active listener, you might need to practice 20 times. But on average, a dozen practice situations of a specific skill where you hit those 4 criteria for a simulation, you're going to go from a 2 to an 8. That's how we think about it, Seth. I'm not trying to build masters. I'm trying to take everybody in the organization from a 2 to an 8, because if we had everybody at an 8 around validation or empathy or
close
whatever,
a lot of deals,
man, we would be so much better as an organization.
100%. You build, in the earlier part of what you went through, you're going to build a lot of trust with your manager for putting you in that spot to fail and not be punished and get the feedback. So then when it does matter, right, they understand. Now they obviously will know they're playing in a game, there's consequences. But during practice time, foul as much as you want. That's what it's for, right? And getting these reps. And it is hard to do at business, right? Because time is so important. And the fact that you can train a model once, make that investment, and then have that and just observe it later and seeing how they did will definitely make every company more sales stickier and successful.
That's absolutely the case. And what we find is this doesn't take an enormous amount of investment from a time standpoint for anybody. We try to build programs that you can practice 30 minutes per week for 12 to 15 weeks. If we could work with an organization for leadership or sales or client success or whatever it is, and we could engineer a program where their people could practice for 30 minutes, which is a small bite of time. Everybody can find 30 minutes somewhere. And they do that for 12 to 15 weeks, depending on the program we build with them. What they'll find is their people will get those repetitions week in and week out. And when someone practices something in a psychologically safe place, and then they get to go use it for the next week, and then they come back and they practice it again, and then they go use it again for the next week, them doing that over an extended amount of time, rather than say your compliance software, where you watch the video once and say, yes, I completed it, and you pass the test and you're good to go, that doesn't work to develop skill. Repeated exposure over time and small bite-sized learning lessons, that structure makes it so it's a small time investment, and we can actually say, yeah, I know you're a busy professional, Seth, but 30 minutes a week you can find, because in 12 weeks you're going to be a rock star at empathy or closing or whatever the situation might be. That's what it takes.
Love it. And obviously this extends outside the corporate world. I coach competitive travel baseball, and you're seeing a lot of success with your elite sports coaches using the language of leadership. What can the corporate CEOs learn from sports psychology?
Well, the number one thing to learn from sports psychology is that on a sports team of any degree of competition, everybody wants more playing time. You have alignment Absolutely. Inherent in athletics. It's one of the unique things. It's one of the reasons why often a good sports coach not going to be that great of a business leader. And there's not a ton of case studies of this, but it just isn't common, because the inherent competition and drive of the athlete, I want to be here, I need to be better, is built into an athlete. That's not built into most professionals you're going to lead. So that will be an immediate gap between athletics and business. So one of the skills required in an environment where you don't have that degree of buy-in and competition is you must become an expert as a leader at generating buy-in and alignment. You have to constantly be seeking what's in it for them. It's obvious what's in it for the player. When you say, yo, you're running lines all day, brother. You're gassed in the game. I can't put you in the fourth quarter. Start running, homie. Like, they get it. It might suck, but they know why they're running. Most professionals are not going to respond that way because they don't know that they're doing something poorly enough. They're not seeing why it's good for them to run lines and increase their cardio. So you have to become an expert at leading people to alignment. And
you know that Gregory makes his team do sprints in the parking lot? Well, got us doing suicides.
Yeah, that's I'd be curious to understand the alignment there, but it'd be fun to do together, I suppose. But if you don't recognize that right off the gate, that your people are not as bought in as the sports teams, you're going to have a hard time understanding why people don't try as hard as you do in your business. And this is a common thing for most business owners, right? They feel like, why I can't get my people to care as much as I do. Well, frankly, no duh. They're not the business owner. But even a leader, even the CEO who's not the leader, the GM or the team leader gets frustrated that their people aren't trying as hard as they are. And my answer when they let me be candid with them is, obviously, what have you done to help them see why their effort is good for them? And my old coach taught me this, what's in it for me, WII.FM. We are all tuned into this radio station. And if you can fine tune to their frequency and find out what's in it for them, maybe they're on a career trajectory, maybe they need to make more money, maybe they need more time off because their kids are home during the summer, maybe they need a different skill because they think that's what's going to propel them into the future. If you don't know those things, you're going to have a hard time finding alignment when you try to get that person to run sprints in the parking lot. But if you can find it, if you know what that person is deeply after in their life, now all you're doing is helping them get there. It's so much easier. And by the way, I'll add this. Most people think what other people want more of is money. It's not. Most people don't care about money. They care about having enough money to live the lifestyle they would like to live. So if you know what that lifestyle is, then you can help them get to the right amount of money for that. But most people don't actually care that they have $5,000 more in their bank. Don't get me wrong, everybody would say yes to $5,000 more, but they probably won't do a lot more work to get $5,000 more. But they might do a lot more work to be able to cut that next tuition check, or to be able to take their wife on that vacation, or to build that deck that would let them barbecue with their family for the 4th of July. The deeper you know your people, the easier it will be to find that alignment, and then they'll behave a lot more like a sports team than they will a team who doesn't understand why they're running sprints.
I think you probably would agree if it was they felt they had the challenge and they respected their boss. You know, they say 85% of people leave their job because of their bosses, right? And if they're leaving because of their bosses, they didn't leave because of their paycheck. They left because they weren't respected or heard, to your points earlier, right? So, you know, those go with those things too. Like if you understand they want to be heard, they want to be challenged, they want to buy a deck, you know, they want to get their kid into college, you know how to manage them from my side.